Hi there, I'm California Family Trust Attorney Laura Meier, the founder of the Meier Law Firm in Newport Beach, California, and the author of The Family Nest Egg. I help California families prepare for and navigate major life events with my compassion and care. So I want to talk to you today about what is an estate plan? And, do you need one? And does it really protect you? Those are questions I often get, sometimes even at a dinner party. And I'm like, let's change the topic. But it's so important, especially for those of us who have other people who rely on us. And then also just to make sure we are protected and that we would be cared for the way that we want if we should get sick or pass away. So technically speaking, an estate plan is really just a set of legal documents that you with your attorney would prepare in advance to make sure that all of your assets would pass to who you want if you were to pass away without having to go through a long and expensive court process known as probate that can cost tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, and a lot of delays. The other thing that an estate plan does is it also protects you if you get seriously ill and you can't make your own decisions. It really makes sure that your medical decisions could be made, your finances could be handled, and also that if you have children, that they would be cared for the way that you would want and by whom you want if you were in such a serious situation. So, who needs an estate plan? I get asked that so much, and the short answer really is almost every adult needs some form of estate planning. Sure, the 18-year-old who's starting out and doesn't have a lot of assets might just need a medical directive and a financial power of attorney. So that way, if they get hurt, their parents can, still have the authority to make those kinds of financial and medical decisions for them if they can't make them for themselves. But then, going on later in life, when we buy a home and have more assets, or if we have a family, a spouse, children, anyone who relies on us and is dependent on us, we really need to make sure we have an estate plan. So that way, if something happened to us, our family's not ending up in a court nightmare. So let me explain what happens when people don't have this planning in place. And then I'm going to tell you what you can do, some specific things you need to do to make sure that that wouldn't happen to you. So those of us who don't have an estate plan are really relying then on California's default plan for us, meaning if you don't do your planning yourself, California is going to step in with their own plan. And it's a spoiler alert because you're really not going to like it. But basically, in a nutshell, California's default plan for your family when you don't plan yourself is that your minor children could be placed in the care of strangers. And then a judge who doesn't even know your family would have to choose who the guardian of those children would be. And then it also provides that your assets would have to go through a very long and expensive court process known as probate that could cost tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. We see probates regularly taking 2 years plus now just to be completed, which means someone in your family is having to open up probate. Someone's going to have to hire a lawyer, someone's going to have to do the paperwork and all these hassles and delays, and it's so expensive. California's default plan is also that if you have minor children who end up being an heir of yours, that everything you left behind for them once it's sorted out through probate would go to them outright without any restrictions on their 18th birthday. And then two, if you're leaving money to your spouse, and some people are fine with this, some people aren't, but if it's going through probate, it's going to go to your spouse where they really are free to give it away to a new spouse if they get married, or if they got sued later on, it could be taken. There's no protections or restrictions over that money that's going to your spouse if you left it through probate, which many families worry that that's not the best setup. California's default plan is also that your medical decisions can't be easily made if you become seriously ill. That's because our federal laws and state laws provide that your medical information is private and can't be disclosed without your consent. That's great in theory, unless you really would need people in your family to understand while you're in the hospital, and you would want them to make decisions for you. And so without that authority, oftentimes families are having to run into court to get appointed to be your medical decision maker in such a dire situation. And it's not like a Starbucks where you just stop in and stop out. It's a very long process, and it causes a lot of heartbreak and delays. And then, most significantly, maybe the court's appointing people you may not have necessarily wanted to be making those decisions for you. And then finally, with California's plan, they're not in the business of preserving who you are or your legacy. And so that oftentimes leaves a lost legacy, especially when you're leaving behind little ones. So California's default plan is definitely not what I would want for your family. It's not what I would want for mine. And so the good news is that with an estate plan, if it's done correctly, you can actually protect your family, and you can make sure that if you were to become sick or pass away, that everyone you love would be taken care of, and that you would be taken care of in your end of life situation, and that your family could receive money from you or whoever you've chosen with ease without having to go through court at all. So the way that is accomplished is you set up an estate plan, and your attorney helps you make sure that you have all the documents in place and that you're properly funding your estate plan, which I'll tell you about in a second. So what is a good estate plan in terms of how it can protect you? You want to make sure it has some key components. First of all, you are going to need a revocable living trust, typically. And what a revocable living trust is, it's simply a legal document that says, this is who I am. This is who I love. This is who I want to get my money. This is who I want in charge of my money. These are the terms of how the money should go to my spouse or kids or favorite charity or friend or partner or whoever you want to benefit. What's nice about it, it's a private document. So you're not having to go through court and all those delays and all that cost. You set it up in advance, and you can really make sure things would play out the way that you would want. It also contains a will, and what the will does oftentimes is just says, hey, if I forgot to put things in my trust, like my bank account or home or anything like that, that's what I wanted, and it's kind of a safety net we can use to then go into court if we must to transfer in assets after you have died, if you weren't able to do that while you were living. As a side note, your estate planning lawyer should be really good in making sure they're staying on top of that with you. So you don't even have to use the will. A will, though, is also where if you're a parent of young children, you would name guardians. So that's very important. And an estate plan will also include your advanced healthcare directives and financial power of attorneys. That way, if you do get seriously ill, rather than your family having to go through court to get authority to make decisions for you, they can simply have these documents that indicates to the financial institutions or to the hospital that because you are now incapacitated, that they can step in and manage your finances and manage your medical care, and to ensure that you would be safe and taken care of. And then lastly, what an estate plan does is it preserves your legacy. And this is one of the most important things that even great estate planning attorneys often overlook. And that's making sure that who you are as a person gets preserved. So one of the things I want to encourage you to do is to talk on audio or video to your loved ones. Share with them your special memories, what's in your heart, what you want for them, and if nothing else, just to tell them, I love you one last time. So hopefully this tutorial has helped you understand why you need an estate plan, what happens when you don't have one, and how it really protects you. We're here, your friends at the Meier Law Firm, to stand with you on your journey, not just initially, but for life, to make sure that you have that partnership and you feel confident that you truly can have an estate plan that protects you and everyone you love today and always.